Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/ProRevenge. In today's episode, ruin a department I helped create? Fine. Whatever. If you can't do the lab, you fail. The regrettable statement of my high school anatomy teacher. Champagne is only free for people about to get married? Fine then, let's get married. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Ruin a department I helped create? Fine. Whatever. This goes back decades. I'm almost over it. Not really. I joined a company that was set up as a consultancy to a large corporation to repair their relationship amongst the local community that they were part of. I was in the IT division. I was part of a team of 5 people who installed computers in local businesses, and it ran a billing package for these businesses. We trained their staff and supported everything. This was all done as a low-cost outreach and was very successful. This went fine for about 8 years until the top guy in the company left to join the corporation, and a new guy took his place as director. The new guy, who wasn't really a problem, was more of a paper manager. A genius at it really, but he left all personnel issues to the department managers. However, he didn't along with the IT manager, and she finally resigned after months of tense standoffs over various policy issues. Now, I was the most experienced staffer and I might have had a chance to get her job, but the office grapevine said the director had already secretly selected someone himself. This was surprising as we'd merged with the large corporation, and all hiring was required to go through human resources. But he wanted to be able to replace our manager instantly, so he'd been grooming the replacement, so the moment she resigned, in a fit of anger during a meeting, he had her replaced right away. Remember how I said the director wasn't good at personnel? He wasn't good at hiring and interviewing either. The new IT manager was horrifically unqualified. Her resume was invented from top to bottom. She had no management experience, and as we discovered, she knew nothing about IT. How much nothing? She didn't understand the difference between Macs and PCs. She made a major purchase of new Office software for the entire office. Mac Office software. We ran MS-DOS on PCs at the time. Although Windows 95 had come out a few years earlier, we were locked into IBM PCs with DOS-based applications on a contract with IBM. Her resume boasted a deep programming background, but she didn't know what a subroutine was. It simply got worse and worse. Over the next few years, she deliberately drove out all experienced staff. She would require highly granular timekeeping for all of IT, tracking who called in for support, when we spent support at a business or the corporation, even though there was zero use for this as there wasn't even internal tracking for who used what. When we complied, including tracking the time to track the time, and her increasingly complex needs for details started to take up to an hour each day, the director ended it. She also routinely took personal credit for projects done by her department with no acknowledgement of the actual individual who performed the work. One by one my coworkers left to other jobs, and in one case she framed one guy for a failure she caused and got permission to fire him. She replaced everyone with people she had known at previous jobs regardless of their backgrounds and job skills. A COBOL programmer replaced one of our training and support people. He was a great guy and miserable in the role she put him in. She hired another woman to replace another staff member, but all this woman had done before was author training manuals. Our training materials were all provided under our contract. I never figured out what she did aside from acting occasionally as a personal secretary. Which made no sense since we had a secretarial pool. And she got paid 3 times what they got paid. As for me, my wife and I had had our first child around this time, and I simply didn't care about issues of pride anymore. I was careful to CYA myself because all I wanted to do was bring home a paycheck for my family. The IT manager took credit for everything I did. I was careful to document my work, and in many cases, her taking credit failed because it was too obvious she wasn't involved. She moved on to trying to get me fired. Anyone who has done customer/computer support knows that you will get customers you just cannot make happy. Usually just a personality conflict. In the past, we simply traded the call off to another member of IT staff, and that would often do the trick. My manager tried to inflate all of these to fireable offenses. To my face, she would promise to have my back, as the original IT manager always did. She loved her staff, and would take a bullet for us. Behind the scenes, she tried to build a case against me. The first time I realized this was a meeting between the director, one of our business consultants, my manager, and myself. I'd been given a heads up by the business consultant, and when I walked into the meeting I had all my notes on my supposed failures. She made her pitch to the director, but the business consultant, and I destroyed her and demonstrated to the director she was inventing things. She was humiliated and I remained unscathed. The second time, an assistant manager at one of the businesses I'd recently installed a computer system at raised a huge stink. He'd been following me around during the install and questioned me. Turns out he was trying to set up a system at home to call into his office to get onto the network. Which, back then, was a bigger deal than it is today. However, I'd actually done this for another business, but not this one. He'd made some random guesses as to what he needed and wasted $5,000, because it was all IBM hardware/software. He blamed me. Again, the IT manager told me she'd reviewed my notes and knew I was blameless. I wasn't stupid enough to believe her again. I got the business consultant to go to the head manager at this business and ask about this. It turned out the assistant manager there had never requested remote access internally, and the entire staff there supported my version of events. Of course, my manager once again had tried to escalate this to a major failure. Remember those detailed notes/timekeeping she had wanted? Well, even though the ridiculous depth of them was gone, I still kept them. She called another meeting, this time inviting senior management from the corporation as well. It was another embarrassing moment for her. I refuted all the claims made by her and the assistant manager of the business, and with documentation. My good friend, our business consultant, backed it all up, and the cherry on the top? The head manager of the business called the senior management at our corporation to apologize for his assistant manager and to praise my work. My manager looked like the idiot she was. All because I continued to comply with the task/timekeeping she originally instituted to drive the old staff out. Now she kept her job, mainly because our director would have to explain why he hired someone so clearly unqualified, and he couldn't because he violated HR policy to do so. But I know you readers out there want to hear some juicy revenge as well. That weekend following that meeting, a major business's entire computer network I'd installed went down after a lightning strike. I remotely diagnosed it and knew it needed a simple hard drive replacement and a restore from a tape backup. I came in Monday. Before I could leave to fix the client, she called me into her office. She offered me a 3-month severance package. Full pay, benefits, etc. They only offered these to management types normally. She hated me and wanted me gone. I told her I would gladly accept it, but didn't she want this client fixed? It was kind of a big deal. She said no. While I signed the legal paperwork, she rambled idiotically about my job performance, etc., but I just finished signing, took my copy of the papers, and told her that she didn't know anything about what she was talking about, and this severance proved that. I packed up my office, said goodbye to my friends, many of whom were shocked and crying over this, and I can't deny I was a little wet around the eyes too. I told them it wasn't a problem. And you know what? It wasn't a problem. I'd been building my own software company on the nights and weekends for years, with full permission of my original manager. I walked out of there with 3 months of free salary into my own company, which was now paying me more than my old salary now that I could go full-time with my partners. Oh, and my friend who got fired? I used my contacts and found him a job, a better job too. As for my manager? They took over 2 months to figure out how to replace and restore that hard drive to the business that had the lightning strike. I wasn't kidding about her hiring the wrong people for our jobs. That business likely bad-mouthed them because they barely retained 25 to 30% of the businesses, as they lost them one by one over the next few years. My friends kept me up to date until they too left. If you can't do the lab, you fail. The regrettable statement of my high school anatomy teacher. Okay rascals, buckle up because this is gonna be long. Context: in 2015, I was in the second half of my senior year of high school. I had a Catholic education all of my life. In school, by the time we reach out upperclassmen years, we had the ability to choose 1 to 2 elective courses. Well, in that chapter of my life I hope to pursue occupational therapy in college, 2 changes in my major, and an F in psych. Later I have my bachelor's in English and writing. Who would have fucking thought? So I graciously signed up for human anatomy. This class was taught by one of my Catholic school's nuns, who I did not get along with. I had taken biology, not by choice, with this woman, who we will call Sister Geraldine in the past. So, Sis Geraldine and I had some history from a previous year of academic torture together. You see, I think we would have gotten along in another plane of existence, maybe another dimension, but that's speculation. Not here, not on this planet, not in this timeline. She would sit her wide ass in her poor rolling desk chair and not move for a whole day. I swear, this woman was so large she had a gravitational pull. Sometimes I wondered if the pens and pencils she threw at students would get pulled into her orbit. And since Sister G was an old large goat, she taught science in the most religious way possible. Glancing over the reproductive system chapters, which were still covered in exams without being taught them, or referring to more private parts of the human anatomy with phrases such as Adam's gifts to Eva's fruitfulness. Her bullshit was constant, and I was over it. If it wasn't for her cruel behavior and terrible treatment of her students, I wouldn't give a damn. Sister G was self-righteous. She felt that she could treat others with little to no respect because she chose a path of vocation. Every day I would battle her on this behavior, because no one else ever dared to, out of fear, to get sent to the office, yelled at by her, or sent to sit outside her classroom. Students would pass by and they knew it was her room, where I was usually serving a penance outside, although to me it felt more like a blessing rather than a punishment. Not many people had the balls to call her out, but I did. I became the voice of my classroom. I fucking felt like Robin Hood that year. But I digress, the context is just as important as the story. Now you can see the picture clearer. Now you can understand the coal that fuels my hate fire. Story, back to second semester 2015. Like I started with, here we are at the beginning of the end. You see, in anatomy most schools will have a lab for dissection to test your knowledge and learn by visuals or on-hand experience. Of course I was expecting this. But I'm no steel-stomached Braveheart. And as my class walked and Sister Geraldine rolled into the lab across the hall, I could smell it. Formaldehyde. That smell could have pulled my lungs out through my nose and cough up fumes, it was so strong. I visibly wretched, and went to step outside for a moment of air. But alas, Sister Planet rolled into my way and gave us the title of my rant. If you can't do the lab, you fail. And boy did she have a sinister smile on her face. She wanted me gone and I could see it, hell I knew it. She was my Joker, my Lex Luthor for 2 years straight, but I wouldn't let her win. In the lab I'm paired with a fellow classmate, who we will call Brett. I asked Brett if he wouldn't mind picking out pig to dissect. He complied, and left to get one for us. I see people coming back to their spots at the long tables with little itty bitty piggies, and I think that this may not be too bad. But boy was I wrong. Brett managed to come back with the baconator of pigs. An absolute unit of a porker who was twice the size of our dissection tray lay before me. I thought this could only get worse. But then, as if the fates heard my silent cries, an opportunity arose. So, Sister Geraldine tried to occasionally make her students happy. She let us all name our pigs. We went around the room and said those names out loud. There were some silly ones, like Chris P. Bacon or Miss Honeyham, but when it came to me and Brett, I hold my hand in front of him in a silencing gesture. With a malicious smile slowly forming, I turned to my nemesis, and in front of our class said this. This is Geraldine. Champagne is only free for people about to get married? Fine then, let's get married. So my cousin, 25F, was going to get married in 2018. I was one of her bachelorettes, and we booked a nice set of 3 adjoined hotel rooms for the hen party. In America, I think it's called a bachelorette party, based on my pop culture knowledge. When booking, the chief bridesmaid mentioned it was for a hen party, and the reception said that all hen parties are offered unlimited free champagne so long as we don't stuff our suitcases full of the stuff. Seemed reasonable, so we gladly accepted. Well, everyone, but me, because I was under 18 lol. A month before the wedding the couple broke up. It turned out that my cousin found out she was gay and couldn't marry him. She started dating her best friend of 15 years shortly after. The day we had a booking at the hotel came closer, and then the would-be chief bridesmaid reminded us of the deal setup. We decided that it would be a pity to waste a free party, and went to the hotel. At the front desk the would-be bride and her girlfriend checked in. They brought up the free champagne. The gentleman at the desk said that the wedding party's champagne would be free. Then he pointed out that she wasn't wearing an engagement ring. She said she had cancelled the wedding. The guy had an odd look on his face, but then, this is tea eating green, and said that it was no problem, and that we should enjoy the room. We thought we were busted, but the guy was so nice about it. We thanked him, checked in, and went to our rooms. That night we partied. The other girls were enjoying the free champagne while my 13-year-old sorry self was drinking some Coke. The party was fun, until we heard a knock on the door, and I opened it. It was the gentleman from the front desk wearing that grin, and holding a giant bill for the champagne. 3 bottles, €200 per bottle. He just rubbed his fingers together as if his master plan had just fallen into place. I may not have been the one about to pay, but I was seeing red, that lying weasel. I just said, what the actual hell is this? He told us smugly that the free drinks were for hen parties only. We actually had to hold back my cousin's GF to stop her from strangling him. He told us that it was policy to only give the free drinks to people getting married the next day, and since none of you seem to fit that description, pay up. Suddenly my cousin's GF matched his grin. She got down on one knee. I was thinking, okay, this is funny, but also this is serious. But then she fully proposed. We were all gobsmacked, the receptionist, the other bridesmaids, myself and my cousin, but she said yes. IDK how I would personally feel getting engaged over a few bottles of alcohol, but to each their own. Also no, we didn't actually have a wedding the next day. They stayed engaged and booked a wedding at the hotel for 2020, but of course, that was cancelled, but they will be back there in 2021/2 LOL. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.